Welcome, everybody. I haven't made any content this summer, so I've taken over cEDH TV this week. Welcome to my show. Here we have Mons, the amazing Pontus, and my arch rival, Martin, aka Snooske, playing some competitive Elder Dragon Highlander.
Rograokh Xyris has been letting me down lately, so let's swap one of the commanders. Ryan, who is someone who I barely know, but I have played against him on this deck. It is very consistent at making infinite mana in like 17 different ways. I still don't remember all of them, so I might have the primer on another monitor while we play. We'll see. Basically makes really good at making infinite mana, has Rograokh to get stuff going really early, enabling a lot of the free interaction and a bunch of other cards. And then the win is usually drawing your entire deck, casting Finale of Devastation for way too much mana, or looping a Lightning Bolt with Eternal Wind. When you have a deck with a Thrasios in the command zone and the ability to make infinite mana at a whim, then it doesn't really matter what the win con is. The less intensive and the less cards you need for that, the better. Especially with something like Lightning Bolt and Finale also having other functions. It's just perfect for a deck like this. So I can't wait to try it out.
So today I'm bringing back Tymna Krark. I do love some Mardu, and this is more Mardu. It's very different from the Mardu you usually play though, because this is a Krark-centric deck. You really try to storm off in a bunch of different ways. You have the classics, Adnos and Breach, but there's a bunch of like more specific combos as well, and it's kind of reliant on one of the best cards in the deck, which is Dalny, which just doubles both of your commanders, which is really good. So kind of want to mulligan for Dalny if I can. But yeah, let's see how it turns out.
So my commander is Xyris, the Writhing Storm. So it does things when my opponents draw cards, not when I draw cards, but then it leverages the resources that I get from doing that to do crazy things. I actually thought I was going to drop this deck, and then they printed 3 cards that are really, really good in this deck. The first one is Apple of Eden. This deck makes a ton of green mana and with Gaia's Cradle, and the Eden Apple is a great way to convert that into ways to win. Also, Valley Floodcaller, a way to flash all my stuff in when my opponents are drawing a bunch of cards and going off. I have a bunch of resources that I'm gaining. I can flash them in.
I'm playing Boros Clown, the yellow balloon man, which is basically a Kiki-Jiki, but also gaining the color identity of white. That means that we can win with things like Village Bell Ringer, but also things like Combat Celebrant that makes infinite combats, basically, and stuff like that. But otherwise, a kind of cool Boros deck in general. This hand is somewhat a little bit too expensive. We have Seamsy 4 and Seamsy, yeah, basically only Seamsy 4 spells all over the place. They're all good, like these are cards I kind of want to have, but we don't have any form of acceleration except Gemstone Caverns that is on a starting player position, which does nothing here. So we're gonna have to mulligan to find some more potential speed. And here we go, Chromox, that kind of did the job. Also, Paradise Mantle will help out. The commander comes into play turn 2, will be equipped with Paradise Mantle. Then we have Grand Abolisher. We have Breath of Fury, which is tricky to make it work, but it's still okay. We also have Port Racer. I think I'm gonna keep this hand actually. This is the second 7. We're gonna draw something. We have to pitch, I think we're gonna pitch Breath of Fury because that combo is a little bit tricky to make it work.
No lands, goodbye. All right, so Gemstone Caverns. Valley Floodcaller is here. We got turn 2 One Ring. We have Force of Will backup for if someone tries to go for something early, although I don't think anyone's going to try something turn 1 except for maybe Pontus. I think turn 2 One Ring going second, holding on to the Valley Floodcaller, which is one of our super key cards here. I think that's good enough. I think we're going to keep the second 7.
So our first 7 is a turn 1 Tymna with no other real play. Turn 2 nothing, and turn 3 Ranger Captain. That's just nothing. So let's just mulligan. Our second 7 is a lot more interesting. We do have a lot of stuff we do like here. My biggest issue with this hand is that our Esper Sentinel needs to pull a real heavy load here. I'm not really sure about this matchup. I think Esper Sentinel might be drawing cards. I don't know the Baloon Man at all. I don't know what that deck really does. And I think Rograokh Thrasios, it's turbo-ish, so you should be drawing cards of Esper, but I'm not entirely sure. And Xyris is actually kind of the downside of drawing cards. Our payoff is pretty much just Esper Sentinel and drawing into stuff, which when Mardu, drawing payoffs is not guaranteed, but like you can count on it, kinda. And if you just draw land, we have a turn 2 Wheel, which not great. I can see myself keeping this, but I'm gonna play a bit greedier and try to find a hand with a real plan that's not just Esper and sit back. I'd rather keep an Esper sit back on like 4 or 5. So let's move again. This hand is almost turn 2 Krark and Tymna, but the colors doesn't really work out. There's some spicy lines here where you just develop Krark and cast a Fine Fortune and hope to draw into the stuff along the way, but I don't think that's the way we want to go. We are on the 6, so we're moving into 5, and this has a lot of mana, which is always something you're looking for. But we still don't really have a game plan. Our main game plan in this hand is just turn 2 Krark, turn 3 Tymna, draw cards. And that's not really where you want to be. So I'm going to go a bit lower, going to 5. Our 5 is the first hand with the real game plan. The 1-2 Breach is... It's not a win, but like we do have some stuff going for us. The problem is that we're just lacking in mana. This hand is just turn 2 Demonic Tutor because we could Cabal it, but Cabal it doesn't really, having one black over doesn't really get us anywhere. There's also a world where we hopefully draw another land, go Krark, Cabal with Roaming Throne, but that's also not that great. I think this hand is also just too slow. We have drawn a lot of clunky hands here, and I'm actually going to a 4, which... Yeah, so far, I wish I would have kept Esper Sentinel. But like, if my next hand is just a land and an Esper Sentinel, it's pretty much the same hand. So, 1-4. So, as I said, if I just draw a land and Esper Sentinel, it's kind of the same hand. But no, this hand is better, because we have a Mana Crypt. It's not perfect, it's not a lot better, but like, just keeping a Esper Sentinel, Mana Crypt, probably a Abolisher. Fragmentize is a bit relevant as well. It's one of those two at least. Praise Grasp is a bit far, and Pyro, Fragmentize is kind of the same, but we don't have a guaranteed red mana source. So I need to decide between Grand Abolisher and Fragmentize, and you'll see what I decide on. But right now I think I'm leaning Fragmentize, just because we have some spell themes. And honestly, I think this hand is better than our first 7. So yeah, let's go. Move to 4, guys.
Don't think 5 lands is the answer. This is a teamer deck, but it is also a fast deck, so we just want to try to find the let's go infinite. Don't think a Neoform on a Rograokh is going to help that along. Very protective hand. Nothing else to really get the ball rolling. I think we're going to go to 6. Too many things that require too much mana. Maybe a slow hand is sometimes the answer, but this is just not a working hand, so we'll have to go to 5. This is a protective hand with a Worldly Tutor on a 5. That's going to be something like the Worldly Tutor, 2 lands. Question is, what are we getting with a Worldly Tutor in this case? So we need like several pieces to get stuff going with either like Cloudstone Curio with a Dockside or something else. I'm not sure how good this deck goes to 4, so I'm going to keep this 5 and see where it takes us and bottom these 2.
Send out this Gemstone Caverns, and we're going to put an Echo of Eons in it.
I get to draw a card for starting player. I will play this Command Tower. I'm gonna play this Chromox in Printing Breath of Fury. Then I'm gonna cast a Paradise Mantle and pass the turn.
Draw a card. That's a card. Oh my gosh. Blue to Delta. I will crack it. I'm going to 39. I'll grab myself a Volcanic Island. I'll play this Jeweled Lotus that I top decked. I'll cast Xyris, the Writhing Storm, and then if that's okay, I'll pass.
Take my turn. Land for turn will be a Scrubland. I'll tap it. Try to make Josh happy by casting an Esper Sentinel. Then I'll cast a Mana Crypt. Then I'll tap Mana Crypt to cast a Grinding Station. And then I'll pass turn.
I will draw for turn. Let's just cast a Rograokh. Let's start with that. Play this Stomping Ground. We're going to take 2, and then we're going to tap it to cast a Mana Vault. That's all I got. I will pass.
Pray to the Magic the Gathering land gods! No. So we're going to pray to the gambling Magic the Gathering gods. Cast and gamble. You can draw with your Espel. I'm finding this card and then discarding card at random. Yeah, discarded Esper Sentinel. Pass.
We'll go to my turn. Not a land. Well, maybe we'll get one. I'm gonna go to combat and I will attack Mons for 3. Normally it's like a decision who I attack, but like Mons has very obviously the least going on. You'll take 3 commander damage and we'll each draw 3 cards. I'll make 3 snakes. Play a Mana Crypt. You can draw. I'll make a snake. All right, I'm gonna put the One Ring into play. All right, I will gain protection from everything. Then I'm gonna tap it and add a burden counter to draw a card. Now, in case I draw land, I will pass the turn.
Go to my turn, untap, and then since I have it ready for other reasons, we'll flip for Mana Crypts. Tailless damage. Take 3. Draw for turn. Land for turn will be a Marsh Flats, which I will crack. Finding a Badlands. Tapping Badlands and a Crypt to cast a Tavern Scoundrel. And with that in play, I'll just pass.
Alrighty. I will untap. I will draw a card, Gaia's Cradle, and cast a Guild Artisan, which is not a good card anymore because you lost your flip and played a creature. Commanders you own have, whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has more life than that player, you create 2 treasure tokens. And I really want the treasures, but I also really want my Rograokh, I think. Pass!
I will go to my turn and be very thankful for the cards that I drew. I will play this mountain. And I'm gonna cast a dockside extortionist here.
In response to the dockside, I will sacrifice grinding station to itself to mill myself for 3. I would sacrifice something else, but if I sacrifice either Esper or Mana Crypt, I am never winning this game. So sacrificing grinding station to itself, trying to mill myself for 3. Milling a Gemstone Caverns, a Stormkindle Artist, and a Swords. And that's all I have for dockside.
I get 5 treasures because of that. I'm going to use 2 treasures and 1 command tower to cast Delny Streetwise Lookout. I am going to sacrifice 3 treasures to cast my Baloon Man.
I will respond to that by playing this Force of Will, losing a life and going to 38, and ditching this Chain of Vapor. You may draw. I'll make a snake. I should have probably used that on the Delny, but I got too excited to see my deck doing well and forgot that this was in my hands. So we're dead next turn. I'm sorry. It's my fault.
Well, the Balloon Man is countered, so I don't know about next turn because I don't have the mana to cast it. I am going to pass the turn here.
I will go to my turn. First, we're going to roll for Mana Crypt, Heads Hurts. I didn't actually see what that was. Oh, it's a heads. Okay, I'll take 3 damage. Land for turn is going to be this Mana Confluence. Wow, I'm just all over the place. I forgot to activate my One Ring and my Upkeep too. I'll activate it now, play a counter on it. I also lose a life to the One Ring, so I should be down 1 further. Look at that, I drew a better land than this Mana Confluence. I am punished. Yeah, I'm going to go to combat, and I'm going to attack Martin for 3. We'll each draw 3. Damage. Yeah, you draw equal to the amount of damage that Xyris deals, so if he gets a buff, make 3 snakes. I also draw 3. I will X equals 2 this Finale of Devastation. You may draw. I'll make a snake.
Guardianship.
The Esper can resolve. I'll make a snake. We're running out of space for snake. Counter my attempt to win the game? That's rude of you.
Oh, you were trying to win? I'm sorry. I can't take it back now, though.
Fine. You got me. Well, that stinks. I could have gotten a dockside and then had exactly enough for Perforos plus this Windfall to instantly kill the table with my commander with Veil of Summer Protection. How dare Martin do the thing he always does. I mean, I draw 4 cards every turn, right? I can discard a land. I'll discard this command tower. And after that, I'll pass my turn.
Go to my turn. Upkeep, roll for crypt, tails is damage. So we'll flip to see what we get. We get the heads, so no damage. We also win a flip, so Tyrant Scoundrel triggers, and we make 2 treasures. It's great when good cards synergize with each other. Then we draw for turn. Land for turn will be a Windswept Tea, and I will fetch immediately. Then I will cast a Jeweled Lotus. I'll crack it for 3 black. I'll tap a white here to cast a Tymna, leaving up a black commander mana. With my last commander mana, I'll tap a red and cast a Krark. Then I will float a colorless, tap a red to cast a Ragavan Dashed. After Ragavan, I'll move to combat. I will swing a Esper Sentinel at Snuske and the Ragavan at Mons.
No blocks. You will get a Imperial Recruiter.
Oh! I'll also make a treasure. Post-combat, I'll have a Tymna trigger, and I will pay 2 to draw 2 and let Josh make some snakes. I'll cast a Mox Opal. I'll try to tap Mox Opal to cast a Lightning Bolt targeting dockside. Trigger Krark. Krark trigger, heads I copy. I'll flip. I get a heads. So I'll have an extra copy of Lightning Bolts targeting Delny, and I'll have a trigger for Tyrant Scoundrel to make 2 treasures.
I lose both of my 2 creatures. They're dead.
So after that, I will sacrifice a treasure to cast a Reanimate, targeting Delny. Trigger Krark. Okay, so Krark trigger resolves. I will flip. Heads I copy. Flip a tails. No copy. Goes back to hand. I'll try again. So this time I'll actually do this correctly. I'll target the dockside with the Reanimate, but I'll hold priority on the Krark trigger, sacrifice my 3 treasures to cast a Dual Cast Mage. Dual Cast Mage resolves, and ETB I will target the Reanimate.
I will mental misstep the reanimate with the targeting it. The copy is not there yet.
That'll trigger Esper.
I will not pay.
I will draw. I have no way to respond to this. Reanimate is countered. Dual Cast Mage ETB fizzles, and we now have a Krark trigger on the stack. I'll flip for Krark. Heads I copy. Tails I pass. We flip, and we get a heads. We'll get a Tyrant Scoundrel trigger, and the copy will target Delny.
I will cast a deflecting swat, targeting the reanimate.
No response from me.
And I will change the target to Esper Sentinels.
So I get a copy of Esper Sentinel and lose a life, and I make 2 treasures to Tyrant Scoundrel. I will sacrifice a treasure to cast a Culling the Weak, sacrificing my Ragavan. Trigger Krark. I'll flip for Krark. Heads I get a copy. I will flip a tails. And since I don't really have any gas left, I'll just pass my turn.
I will move to combat, and I will swing at Mons with Ragavan, triggering Guild Artisan. I will play this as a land, and I will take 3. Soporific Springs. I'm going to cast Thrasios.
We'll go to my turn. Draw a card. I'm going to cast this Gold Mir that taps for mana. Then I'm gonna sacrifice this treasure and tap this for red and cast an Goblin Engineer. I'm gonna find Grim Monolith that I'm sending to my graveyard, and then I'm passing the turn.
That's tails, we're safe. Untap. I'll lose 2 life from the One Ring to 31, and then I'll put a burden counter on it and tap it to draw 3 in my... Wow! Instant gratification. Before my draw step, I will cast this Worldly. You guys can draw. When this happens, I'll make 2 snakes. These snakes will be summoning 6, and then Worldly Tutor is cool. To everyone's surprise, I'll put Dockside on top of my deck. Go to my turn. I'm gonna tap 2. 1, 2. I'll leave a colorless mana floating, and I will put my Dockside Extortionist on the stack. ETB then.
I will respond by sacrificing a treasure to activate Tavern Scoundrel, sacrificing Mox Opal to flip a coin. I get 2 treasures, but I can sack them as well. I'll flip a coin. Heads, I get 2 treasures. Tails, I get no treasures. And that's all I have for the ETB.
Alright, so I get 10 treasures. Go down to 9 treasure. Play this Tinderwall. If I play Perforos and then cast the Windfall, I can back it up with Veil of Summer and Mindbreak Trap and, just deal 36 damage to everybody. But if people play enough cards out of their hands, because when I do that, I go down to like 5 cards in hands, people won't take enough damage to die, and then I'll have to try and see if I can punch them to death with my 16 snakes, which might not be enough. The other thing I can do is I can go to combat first and attack probably Mons, because he's tapped out. If I do that, I get more cards in hand. So I don't know, okay, so I built Mons' deck. I know how much removal he has in that deck. He has, actually, I'm pretty sure, no free removal he can use against me right now. There's no, Solitude in there. Even though Solitude would be kind of sick with the Balloon Man, I decided gas is better than interaction in a deck without blue. So I think the correct thing is to attack Mons, draw the extra 3 cards, and then get a slightly more guaranteed win from there. I'm going to move to combat. I'm going to send Xyris at Mons. I'm going to send 8 snakes at Mons, and I'm going to send 8 snakes at Pontus.
I will block 3 snakes with my Dual Custom Mage, my Tymna, and my Krark.
We'll block 1 snake with a Goblin Engineer and take 7 plus 3, total of 10 damage. And we both draw 3 cards, I think.
Yep, I lose 4 snakes and go to 12. Crack my Tinderwall for red, go to 7 treasures, and cast this Perforos, God of the Four. Put a Windfall on the stack.
I pass.
I have 8. So each of you will be drawing 8 cards. You will take, what is that? 8, 16, 24 times 4. You each take 48 damage.
I'm going to sacrifice these 2 treasures and tap my Gaia's Cradle. And for 4 mana, I'm going to activate the activated ability of Talon Gates of Madara and put it into play.
Crazy.
When it enters, up to 1 target creature faces out. And I believe the only viable response here is to target Xyris, because I don't believe Perforos is a creature.
No, I don't even think there's enough devotion in my deck to make Perforos a creature. There might be exactly enough. I would need Underworld Breach on the field. Martin. Why do you have the only card that I could think of that plays around this? What the heck? Dang, he got me good. Arch rival stuff, I guess. Well, I'm gonna go down 3 to 6 treasures, or from 6 treasures to 3 treasures, and I'm gonna play this Valley Flood Caller that I was very excited to play. Is Valley Flood Caller okay?
I pass.
All right, cool. We'll go to 2 treasures. We'll play a Soul Ring. Cool. So we will wheel and draw 7. Yeah, I'll pass.
Untap. I'll flip for Mana Crypt. I flip a heads, so I win a flip. Trigger Tavern Scoundrel. I'll make 2 treasures, and then I'll draw for turn. Land for turn will be a Luxury Suite. So I will swing Tymna and Krark at Snuske, and I'll swing Dual Caster and Tavern Scoundrel at Mons.
I will block the Krark with Thrasios.
I will block the Scoundrel, then take 2 from the Dual Caster Mage.
I'll gain 2 life from Tymna, but in post-combat main phase, I will pay 2 to draw 2, move ±0. Let's just start off a bit slow and tap a red for a Rite of Flame, triggering Krark. So Krark trigger, heads a copy, I will flip, and it will be a tails, just like Snuske says. 1 more time. I'll flip Krark, and heads a copy. Tails, I don't copy. We're still mana positive if we hit this. I'll try once more. I'll flip for Krark, and it will be heads this time. Whoa! Trigger Tavern Scoundrel. I'll make 2 treasures, and I'll have 2 Rite of Flames on stack. Rite of Flame resolves twice, and I make 4 red. So 3 mana, make 6 mana. I'll sacrifice 2 treasures, float a colorless for a Ranger Captain of Eos.
I'm casting a Mindbreak Trap targeting the Ranger.
Trigger Esper.
I will not be paying.
I'll draw, and I'll draw. And Ranger Captain is exiled. I'll use my colorless floating to cast a Mana Vault. I'll tap Mana Vault, floating 2 colorless, using a red. Actually using 1 mana more, so I have 1 colorless floating to cast a Curse Mirror. Curse Mirror resolves, enter as a Goblin Engineer. ETB trigger on stack. I will entomb a Wishclaw Talisman. I'll use a red to activate Curse Mirror, sacrificing Mana Vault to reanimate my Wishclaw Talisman. I would like to use my last colorless floating to activate Wishclaw Talisman.
I'm going to go down to 1 treasure remaining and cast this Crop Rotation, sacrificing my Sink into my Soporific Springs.
Trigger Esper twice.
You got him. Draw.
I draw 2.
I'm gonna get Cradle. Tap this Soul Ring for 2 colorless. Play an Arcane Signet. That's gonna trigger the Valley Flood Caller, so it's now a 4/4. I'm going to tap my Cradle. So that's gonna make 1, 13, 14, 15, 16 mana. We're gonna go down to 14 mana and play a Felwar Stone. We're gonna tap this Felwar Stone and go to 12 mana, and we're gonna play an Intuition. My target will be Mons. All right, we're gonna grab the following. See, the problem is my Intuition pile is in my graveyard. There's a Finale of Devastation in there already.
I'm pretty sure if you get Breach here, you're pretty set up, right?
Yes, but if I get Breach, the pile for this deck is Finale of Devastation, Underworld Breach, Eternal Witness, and one of those cards is in the graveyard.
Isn't that just good that it's already in the graveyard?
No, because the pile is Finale of Devastation gets Eternal Witness back, which gets me Breach.
Oh, like that, yeah.
So if you choose Eternal Witness, I get Breach. If you choose Breach, I get Breach. If you choose Finale of Devastation, I get Breach. But now I get like Eternal Witness Breach, and then the third card, which you will be picking. So my pile is not going to be Eternal Witness Breach, because why would I get rid of those cards that I want? So I have to think of a new pile.
Yeah, I would just love to not counter this Intuition right now, is what I'm trying to say. So I would love to have a situation where I can save interaction for whatever Pontus is trying to do, and then maybe we help each other out.
Well, I don't think I'm going to go for a win knowing that you have interaction.
Interesting sentence. Sure, let's go with that. I'll pass on Intuition.
Okay, so my pile is going to be A Court of Calling, Eldritch Evolution, and Bribery.
Bribery?
Yeah, I forgot I put this in my deck when I added the Apple of Eden, but Bribery is sweet.
I guess we're giving you bribery here.
Then I'm going to go down 1 to no more colored sources, 9 green mana remaining, and I will be targeting Mons with this Bribery.
I'm just testing you out. Ranger Captain, I will help you out because if you plan to grab Ranger Captain to interact with Pontus, I have sad news for both of us. Ranger Captain is in my hand, so...
Your Dockside's out of the game too, isn't it?
Yes! It's in my grave.
I'll just target Martin. I'll steal his Eternal Witness and put Interaction in my hand. That's what we'll do. I'm so sad. I thought I had a line here. All right, Eternal Witness enters the battlefield. I will target the Mindbreak Trap in my graveyard.
I pass.
Evolution. The only good creature in my deck is Perforos.
Oh, we also take 2 from Perforos.
Yes, you do, with the Eternal Witness enters. Yeah, so I'll grab Mindbreak Trap and put it back. Darn, that was a whole lot of hullabaloo for nothing.
So which activation on stack? Finding this card. I'll tap the white and the white to cast the Grand Abolisher. After that, I'll use a red floating, 1 red floating and a treasure left. Try to cast a Gamble. Trigger Krark. 1 red floating, 1 treasure left. Krark trigger on Gamble. I'll flip. Heads a copy. Tails, nothing happens. I flip, and it's a heads. 2 gambles on the stack and a Tavern Scoundrel to make 2 treasures. I'd like to make 2 treasures first. First gamble results, I find this card and I discard a random card. I discard a Talisman of Indulgence. In response to my next gamble, I'll sacrifice a treasure and cast a Silence. Trigger Krark. Krark trigger, I will flip. Heads I copy. Tails, I try again. Flip, and we get a Tails. It goes back to hand. Try again. I'll flip. We'll get a Heads. 2 Silences on the stack.
Now I have to respond.
And a Tavern Scoundrel trigger to make 2 treasures.
I'll tap the Mana Vault to tap the Talon Gates for 1 blue and cast a Swan Song targeting the Gamble.
Okay. Swan Song resolves. I get a Swan.
I'm afraid that's the only maybe option we have.
So I get the Swan, and then I would like to resolve my triggers. I'll make 2 treasures. Then the second treasure silence resolves. 1 treasure, 1 red floating. Cast a Breach. With Breach in play, I will cast a Mox Opal, exiling a Jewel Lotus, a Ragavan, and a Stormkill Artist. No, swords. I'll tap Mox Opal, sack a treasure to cast a Grinding Station, exiling 3 lands. In response to Grinding Station ETB, I'll tap it to sacrifice a Mox Opal and mill myself for 3, milling a Blue Delta, a Dracula's Tomb, and a Verdict Catacombs. And from here, I have a pretty sweet loop where I can cast the Mox Opal, tap it for mana, sack it, milling through my library, and amassing a bunch of mana. I can also cast a Reanimate to reanimate the Dockside to make a bunch of treasures and sacrifice them to mill myself even more effectively. And then, to finish out the kill everyone, I will reanimate the Dalny, sacrifice Dual Caster to my Culling the Weak. Then I'll cast a Heat Shimmer from my graveyard, In response, I'll recast the lightning bolt to my graveyard, and then cast a dual cast mage to infinitely copy the heat shimmer and the lightning bolts, because I have 2 dual cast HPs for each dual caster copy, to infinitely lightning bolts the whole table. Even if Krark can fizzle my spells, this just works because heat shimmer, Krark trigger on stack, cast lightning bolt in response, Krark trigger on stack. In response to both of those, I cast dual cast mage. Dual cast mage will resolve. Because of Delny, I will have 2 ETBs. One of them will copy the lightning bolts, the other will copy the heat shimmer. This will create a copy of dual cast mage, which in turn will copy both the heat shimmer and the lightning bolt again. So I will get infinite hasty dual cast mages and infinite copies of lightning bolts to kill the whole table. Good game.
Martin and I were the only 2 blue decks. There was a lot of like me and him trying to gauge what each other had and find windows to go off around like Pontus and Mon, who try to jam wins as much as possible decks. It was a very interesting game dynamic.
Yeah, I got put into a situation pretty early because I didn't want to mulligan too low in a teamer deck. I'm not sure if I should have gone down lower, but I kept drawing interaction pieces, getting put in a position where all I could do was pretty effectively interact with people, both with the talent gates and the different kinds of interaction that I had available. So it was a very defensive game on my end, even though the deck is really good at just pushing for a win. So it went a bit against what the deck is trying to do. Weird, but it worked out for a while until Pontus was able to jam Ranger Captain into Abolisher into Silence. So yeah, the amount of value on that turn and just the amount of resources that you had available was pretty nutty.
I honestly got pretty hard carried by the Tavern Scoundrel Mana Crypt interaction. I flipped heads like 2 or 3 turns in a row, and without that, I would never have had enough gas to like try that much so many times.
Yeah, I felt like you didn't really have any mana, but you just kept having enough mana.
Yeah, that's kind of what's cool with this deck though, because like you make a lot of mana weirdly.
That's how Storm decks works. Hope you enjoyed this match. Thanks for watching. We'll be back as normal next week.